Hi everyone, and welcome to week 2. Hopefully intro to Photoshop, reading the books, discussion boards, and everything like that is going well. Make sure that you're posting your first discussion board by Thursday at midnight, and then you need to comment on other students' discussion boards and turn in your assignments by Sunday. So you don't want to fall behind, just make sure you're posting and keeping up with everything, and it's fun getting to know everybody. So nice work so far. This week, we're looking into Photoshop a little bit more and Illustrator. Your textbook, you've got 3 different chapters that you can take a look at, and there are specific pages listed. It does a really nice job of showing you masking and some of the marquee tools and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you just a quick little some selection tools that I find helpful in Photoshop, and then you can feel free to use the book and the videos on the website and in conjunction with what I'm going to show you to see what you like best. So I found this adorable picture of a puppy that I wanted to use. I know some of you are doing the animal project, so you can use something like this. Really, it doesn't matter what your subject is, whatever you want it to do, we're going to use the same tools. So when you bring in the photo, and side note, in your assignment it gives you links to 2 different photo websites. So I actually found this one through the Creative Commons. So you can take a look at that and find out, the copyright information or how you're allowed to use the images or if you need to cite anything. But make sure, again, you're always giving credit where credit's due. So I just open up this image. I'm going to double click my background layer. Hit OK. That unlocks it. So I know that I want to use this puppy in my Illustrator document, the second part of your assignment. So I need to kind of get rid of the background. So there are several ways we can do this. You've got masking, marquee tools, you can paint, you can erase. Really, one of the great things about Photoshop is there's a billion ways to do the same thing. So you can kind of pick and choose what you like best. I find that the Quick Select tool, which is W on your keyboard, or the magic wand, which is underneath it, are really fast, easy, and convenient ways to get things selected to remove, or you can even move it around on the actual page in Photoshop. So Magic Wand takes pixel information into account, and it grabs things of similar color. So every pixel in Photoshop has a specific color number. So it knows that in that one tiny pixel there's this much red, this much green, blah blah blah. And it's actually a number. So the Magic Wand, you can set how much of a range do you want it to accept of that color. Quick Select tool kind of just finds the difference in colored pixels. So once you start to click, grabs a small area, but if you click and drag, it's grabbing sections of similar colors. So it can see that there's a contrast here between the puppy and the background. So it knows, what we need to grab and what we don't. While you're doing this, and you can click and drag, you can always hold Alt or Option on your keyboard, and you'll see that if you can, not sure if you'll be able to see the icon, but it goes from a plus sign to a minus sign. So you can actually remove parts of your selection. You can always hold Shift to bring them back, but we can really just kind of go around and quickly select out our puppy from here. Okay, so you can, I ended up grabbing everything, so let's undo that. You can, take your time and do things how you see fit. You're going to want to pay attention. A lot of times when we look at things by pixels, we're not going to get that fuzzy edge. So we might want to change our brush size or go in and kind of feather our edges. You can modify your selections after it's made, but you also want to make sure that you're not getting too much red here, or are we missing out on whiskers? So there's a lot more detail than you can put into this besides just a click and drag. You don't want it to look fake and like, we've got a straight line through here or something like that. Once you have it selected, you can delete the background if that's, the easiest way around. Don't forget, you can always select at the top. We can go to select inverse. So if it was easier to select one thing versus the other, like I was selecting the background to remove it, if you did the reverse, you can always inverse. But anyway, so if we delete, we get this checker background, which means there's no information there, which is what we want to be able to bring this into Illustrator. But I'm going to deselect. You can do Control D or Command D. There's definitely, some sections that I can feather. I like to grab an eraser. You can hit E. Anything that's very feathered. So you don't want a hard edged brush like this. You want a feathered. And you want to bring the opacity very, very low. With the eraser, it's one of those things that you can kind of constantly keep brushing. I'll do it in this section so you'll be able to see. Nothing makes a big difference, but when I keep going over and over and over it, it starts to fade, but you're not really gonna ever see that harsh edge, which is nice. So you can start kind of doing that around sections that need a little bit more attention. Even up here, we've got the background shadow is over our puppy's fur. Okay. So you're definitely going to need to take some time with this. This isn't something that's just a one-stop easy fix. But it's definitely kind of fun. You can listen to your favorite song and take some time to fix. All right? Sorry about that, I had a computer freeze. But, when you take your time and, I would definitely continue feathering and all that kind of stuff. But for learning purposes, we've got this selected. Now, we're going to take a look at Illustrator. The layout is very, very similar to Photoshop. The tools that you can use, you're still going to use layers. Our tools are going to be laid out the same kind of way, but we've got some different tools to look at. Now, Photoshop versus Illustrator is raster versus vector. Vector art, which is what we do in Illustrator, is actually mathematical equations of curves. So the really cool thing about what you do in Illustrator is that it can be scaled up or down as much as you want without distorting your actual image. Now in Photoshop, if we go to scale something, because it's in pixels, it's going to start to get pixelated, and any curve that you have is going to actually look like stair steps, right? Because all we're doing is taking those squares that make up your image and trying to scale it up even further. So you're making those pixel squares even bigger, instead of using this nice equation that's, x is always going to be a certain degree angle plus, away from y. So the main kind of tool we're going to be looking at in Illustrator is the pen tool, but I want you to be aware that the pen tool is one of the most universal tools that's actually out there. Photoshop has the pen tool, 3D software uses a pen tool, After Effects has the pen tool, so I would highly recommend that you get comfortable using it. In the announcements section, I actually put this little game that they have online. It's just a website, but it allows you to practice using the pen tool and getting good at getting specific angles. If anyone needs me to go over how to use the pen tool, please let me know. Be happy to do a lecture on the pen tool. Once at first it's a little complicated, but once you get used to using it, you're good to go. So let's take a look at Illustrator real quick. So I've opened it up. I'm going to go to New. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash again because I have Photoshop and Illustrator open. But for this exercise, we need to do an 8.5 by 11 Illustrator file with 3 different layers. So depending upon if you want it to be portrait or landscape, we're going to probably deal in portrait, and then you can give it a name. Just call it mag for magazine. Hit OK. So now you need 3 layers, and remember that layer order always matters. So we're going to do a background layer with any solid color. So that needs to be your bottom layer. Second layer containing a vector drawing of your client's logo, and a third one with the masked images that you did in Photoshop. So, layers in Illustrator, same exact thing, you can create a new layer, but you can also have multiple pieces in each layer. I'll show you in a second, but we have background. So we need our background layer to be a color. One of the easiest ways to do this is to use your rectangle tool. And I'll just intersect, click and drag, to intersect here. Now I want to change this color, so I can click on the white. I'm not sure what color you guys are looking for. Pay attention to your style guides, all that kind of stuff. So now I have my background layer containing that color. So what I was talking about your layers having information, you can see now there's this little triangle. If I twirl that down, I can see the actual rectangle that I have in there. All right. So now the pen tool. So you're going to need to bring in your logo from your client. You can feel free to bring it in. I would highly recommend that you use the pen tool to try to copy it. So we can always bring things in, but we've got our pen tool here, and you want to make sure you're on layer 2. A lot of times we do things in different layers. And you'll be click, hold shift to create a nice loop. And you'll be creating whatever your logo is. I'm just going to make a lumpy circle. I'll fill it with a different purple. So anyway, you get the main idea. You'll have the logo, and then we'll need to bring in your image from Photoshop. Now we've got it all cut out nice and neatly, but we need to save this file so that we are not using the background information. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. You can save as a Photoshop document, but as for JPEG, TIFF, PNG, all of that, only PNGs recognize transparency. If you save it as a JPEG and try to bring it into Photoshop, there's going to be a white background. So you must save it as a PNG. When I save it as a PNG, I can then do a file place. I'm going to need to move it to a different layer, but called it title.png. And then I can place it, and you'll notice that it's just going to be of the puppy. I'll click to set it. It's very, very large, so we'll need to adjust. Make sure that when you scale anything, you're always holding Shift to keep it to the right proportions. You can see here that some of my selections left behind some stuff, so I'll need to go into Photoshop and actually erase that. But we want to move this into my top layer. You can always click and drag to move. But you see the main idea. So we're bringing in that image. You've got image on the top, logo in the middle, and a background color on the bottom. All right. So again, let me know if you have any questions on anything you need to do for this week, or if you need any additional assistance with the pen tool. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon.